Good afternoon, happy Saturday, keepers of the cash. Gary B, the Casual Comic Guy here, and we are here with Savage Saturday Comic Review 61. And what is the book that's up for debate today and review? It is none other than Supernatural Thrillers, Issue 3, which is a telling of The Valley of the Worm, a story adapted from the Robert E. Howard classic. Classic, you say, if you ever heard of it? Well, it's a pretty popular story from Robert E. Howard, and it contains a number of the tropes that he liked to use in some of his stories, mainly of a main character in the modern times then, who was reflecting back on past lives lived, where he was somewhat different or a hero, and the things and times that were happening to him as that hero during that time period in that life. This tale is exactly that. So let's start out with absolutely beautiful cover by Gil Kane, one of the best. And whenever he did Conan or any of these other Savage characters, I just thought he excelled. And where Gil Kane really excels is in the monsters. And you'll see once we're inside this book, it is no different. Gil Kane, amazing. So we have the writers of Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway, and Gil Kane, the artist, and Ernie Chua, the inker, as you know, ended up becoming Ernie Chan. Great artist, great inker in his own right. And one of those inkers that when he inked something, you could tell it was Ernie Chan. It had that feel to it. He was one of those premier inkers that it was obvious when he was on a book. All right, so our story begins, and we have James Allison telling you a little bit about his disease-ridden life. His life has been one of sickness, one of ailment, and he is on his deathbed. And as he's on his deathbed, he is connected to his past lives, and he starts to recount the tale here. So you can see him there on his deathbed. He doesn't have long to live, and he's dreaming of his past lives, and he says, "As death's black wings unfold above me, I see the countless previous incarnations which have been mine, a gleaming parade of forms and lives. For I have been many men in many lands with names like Hilmar and Horsa, Eric and John, and Njord, most of all, Njord. And his life as Njord, back in the day, is the focus of this tale." So he goes back, and this is part of the fantastical element of Robert E. Howard's writing. Because as James Allison is recounting his tale as Njord, he's saying that this singular tale that took place with him in that age is the tale that all heroes' tales unfolded from. From Beowulf to Perseus to St. George who slew a dragon, and Siegfried who slew the scaly behemoth called Fafnir. He said all of those stories, all of those fantasies, all of those myths, all sprang from the tale of what he did as Njord back in this time. So we're already setting up for just a monumental piece of fantasy, right? It's setting up a great tale, especially in saying that all these other great tales are based on this tale. So then we go, and Njord and his people, they're migrating, they're moving, and they're going across the valley. And, you know, they've left their land, and they're exploring. They're looking for a new home. And they were a tribe, and they were marching. And they're a tribe of warriors. They're proud. But as they're marching and they're looking for a new place to settle, and they're leaving the blue lands of the north, they come across this tribe of Picts. And both tribes are kind of the same. They're both warlike tribes. They survive by fighting, and their first instinct is to fight each other. And he's telling us that that's what they did. The Picts loosed their arrows. His people loosed theirs. And it was a bloody battle. And he's saying it's one where if you were there to witness it, the grotesquerie of the events that happened in that battle, you would have to turn your head upon. So you got battle going on, depicted greatly by Gil Kane, until finally his people prevail. It was savage, it was bloody, and the women of his tribe are killing off and crushing the skulls of the enemies that are wounded and on the ground with rocks to make sure that they can't rise up and kill their men. And James Allison, as Njord, is in final battle with the final survivor of this group, of this tribe. This isn't the tribe they're fighting. This isn't the entirety of their tribe. This is just a battle they're having with this one group that was out. So he's fighting with this one guy, and the guy is almost his equal. He's savage, he's fighting, he's cunning, but there becomes an instant, a moment, where he can strike. And James Allison, as Njord, strikes him down. He brains him with his shield, but the guy is not dead. And James Allison has respect for this noble warrior, this savage who's fighting as savage as he is. And when one of the women comes to kill him, he says, no, he fought bravely, he fought savagely, he showed honor in battle, he didn't do anything untoward, it was just a straight fight, and they let the guy go. And as part of the savagery, they drag the rest of the people that they had defeated, and they throw them off a cliff for the vultures to eat. And then they burn the bodies of their own people. And then they move on. And Njord is kind of half regretting the decision, because he says, from that day forth, as I was driving forward, I expected to have to dodge an arrow, or I'd get an arrow from this survivor. But he returns to his tribe, and what they see is this guy who had identified himself as Gorm before, while he was in their capture, arrive and greet them. And he greets them with his people. He leads them to his people. And he said that, and Gorm tells Njord that he told the tale of their brave battle fought, and of the mercy shown to him, that they let him survive, and they started learning each other's language. And he makes peace between the two tribes. And now these two warring tribes, who couldn't look more different, who couldn't be more different, or have even different religious beliefs, now have an acceptance of each other and a respect for one another, and they can live peacefully amongst each other, showing that these two sides, which are completely different, can form a common bond and have a future. So really cool stuff, really great concepts that are being set up. And as he's out hunting with Gorm one day, and him and Gorm are exploring fields and valleys and lands that no one else has explored yet, because they're the two that are the main hunters now of this combined tribe. And they set forth and they brave things other people won't brave. And there's one valley with this great serpent Satha, which Gorm's tribe sees as one of their gods and is fearful of. They don't go there. It's a giant serpent. But there's another valley that they're even more scared of, and it's the Valley of Broken Stones, a place that he calls it. And he said it's even more dangerous than the venomous serpent that they worship. And Njord just can't believe it. And he's of a tribe where they're not scared of stuff. And he says, tell me about it. And Gorm tells him about how how his tribe went there in the past, and all they found were the bodies, the decimated, destroyed, and just rent asunder bodies of his tribe. So as they're having this talk, they turn around to go back home, and they're set upon by a saber-toothed tiger. And James Allison, as Njord, back in this day, combats the tiger. It ends up finally killing the tiger, but not without cost to himself. He's there unconscious, and Gorm gathers him up and takes him home. Now he's got a whole period of healing where he's unconscious, his wounds are being tended to, but when he comes to, he's told his people went forth to settle in the land of broken stone. And Gorm has disappeared and been gone for days when he's awakened. So once he is awake, he gathers his armaments, he gets himself set, and he heads out to find Gorm and his people. And what he comes across, he gets to the Valley of the Broken Stones, and Gorm's there. And Gorm says, "Don't go there. You won't want to see what you'll see. I discovered it myself, and he's been hanging back, waiting for the day that Njord came through again. And Njord, he's got to go down and see it himself. And what he sees is the decimation of his people, and it makes him sick. Him and Gorm gathered the bodies. He nodded. Together then we built a funeral pyre, and as the flames began to twist against the deep night sky, my brain began to seethe like a thing in fever, and slowly my plan began to form. And it brought a short, fierce laugh from my lips, because he can't take the death of his people lightly. Whatever this worm is that he has not laid eyes upon, it must die, and he's got a plan. And he has Gorm take him to the valley where their giant serpent god Satha lives. And there he sets a trap with trees and vines. And he goes out and he taunts Satha. And Satha comes out to meet the challenge. We'll give you a few minutes to look at this. As you can see, the great serpent come out, and just more testament to the great team of Gil Kane and Ernie Chan, just giving a spectacular fantasy. So he lowers the giant snake Satha into the trap, and he knows that once he has the snake trap, he'll have to act quick. So he brings down the giant pillar, the tree that he cut down and had propped up, onto the snake with a branch that had speared it to the ground. He knows he only has a moment to act, and he slays the giant beast. So once the snake is slain, he gathers his arrows, dips them in the venomous poison that he gets from that thing's fangs, and he's got his plan in place. That night, him and Gorm are at a camp, and Gorm thinks he's kind of crazy. Here's this blue-eyed, blonde-haired Northman who's painting his face, and Njord's trying to explain to him that this is his tribe's ritual. They break spear and arrow, and they paint their faces and their limbs. And then they sing a death song. Having only arrows, that's all he breaks. And then he heads off to do battle with this worm. Gorm himself stays behind, and Njord has a respect for that. For Gorm has already followed him to places he's already scared of, and braved what any man of his tribe would brave. And the respect for those two is immense. So once he arrives back at the ruins, he goes to the giant hole that the worm comes from, and he challenges it. He's throwing stones down there. He's screaming, and then he hears a song being played, and it's this great, hairy, apish creature, which he feathers down with an arrow, and the creature dies poisoned and dead. But the song keeps playing on, summoning forth the beast, which Njord says he can only call a worm. He has no other words to describe this giant beast. And when it comes out, even he's in shock at the scale and the scope of this monster. And if you guys just take a look at this, how incredible a job is that by Gil Kane and Ernie Chan. Just absolutely gorgeous. What a monster. You just can't help but have full fun and amazement when you're looking at these panels. So he has his quiver of poison arrows, and he gets atop this pillar, and he's firing arrow after arrow. He's firing it into the eyes, into the mouth, into the hide of this giant worm. But it's not dead yet. The poison starts to take effect, and it goes into its death throes, and it topples the great pillar which Njord's on, and throws him. And when Njord lands, it breaks his bones, it breaks his body, and he knows he's going to die, but he accomplished his task. He avenged his tribe by killing this monster. And then Gorm comes up to him to try to get him out. He's like, "I can't believe you still live. And I saw the fight, I came." And Njord says, "My sword, give me my sword." And Gorm's like, your wounds are great, blonde hair. Gorm will take you home. And Njord's like, no, it's too late for me. He goes, but let the tribe remember. Let all tribe remembers. Let the tale be told from village to village, from tribe to tribe, so that men will know that not man, nor beast, nor devil may prey on the golden-haired people of Asgard. And Gorm says he will tell his tale. And as Njord's life ebbs out and the tale is told, James Allison in his present day life also ebbs out of his diseased body, and he is at peace until he lives his next life as whatever he comes back as. And that is the end of the tale. It's just one I've read many times, not just in comic form, but also Robert E. Howard's tale. I can't even tell you how many times I've read it. It's a great tale. And he's got a few tales like that where he had a fascination with reincarnation and past lives. And there's quite a few stories that deal with that concept. And all of those, you could feel the passion in those stories, in the telling of those stories from Robert E. Howard. And they're great fun to read, great experiences to have. And they take you and transport you to just a magical place to have fun. And absolutely amazing. But that's Savage Saturday Comic Review. We're going to give the cover an A+. We're going to give the interior an A+. For the art and the inking. The story by Jerry Thomas and Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway is a great adaptation. And Roy Thomas always does a great, faithful adaptation of a Robert E. Howard tale. The best adaptations, in my opinion. Of course, an excellent conclusion. This is an A+ issue to me all around. Adapted from an A+ story. Respected in an A+ manner when it was made from the printed page to the comics page. So absolutely loved it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is a book. If you see it, pick it up. They did come out with a True Believers dollar version of this last year. So if you want to read it, you can get this for $1 if you get the True Believers. These are my 3 regular copies. I also have a True Believers upstairs. Again, a great tale. But that's it for today, guys. Until next time, keep it casual.